29. Gemini. Yakol stood close, a perplexed look on his face as he took in the two men laid out on the boards outside the old woman's cloth shop.
Did they offend?
I spat pink saliva. Yeah, they offended. Standing idle while we defended the town against darkness, then trying to get in the final blows to benefit from our labor.
Ah, where I come from, we call them mooches.
I burst with laughter. Funny. That's what we call them, too. Yakol cocked his head at the silver wolf and said a few words I didn't understand. The wolf pranced over and stood at the feet of the man who was rising from the dirt.
Sit and think about your actions for a while, young man. You've done your family no honor this day.
When the conscious one spied the wolf, he sat again, then pushed his back against the wall. The wolf turned its head toward one man, then the other. I chuckled. You just put them in timeout. I like your style, Beastmaster.
Your party has defeated a level 30 Necromancer, Elite. You gain 6,731 XP. Machini's share has reached level 30. Yakol Prunta has reached level 29. You have reached Samurai level 24. +1 Dexterity. +1 Constitution. You have 5 attribute points to spend. You have dealt a blow to Underlord Kame and the Governor of Null. Reputation with Governor Zane. -400. Despised. Reputation with Underlord Kame. -750. Despised.
Congratulations on your level, Yakol. I extended my hand. He grabbed it at the wrist.
The same to you, Shenhua. You advanced toward the loftier goals of our goddess, if I judge from the quest you shared earlier.
You judge correctly. I've got a lot of work to do. Speaking of which, I have an idea I'd like to run by you.
Run by me? Does this mean share?
It means ask your opinion. The Beastmaster's eyebrows angled.
That you would ask the opinion of a mere mortal brings honor to my order.
I inspected him.
Yakol Prunda. Disposition. Endeared. 25 of 1,000. Next rank. Reputed.
What if I told you it didn't have to be that way?
I don't understand. Are you asking what if I didn't have to bring honor to my order?
No. You spend a lot of time with wolves, don't you? A few heartbeats later, the joke penetrated, and he laughed. That or he didn't want to be rude. Either way, the subject was never easy to broach, but this went beyond converting one person to my cause. Rashawn had lit a fire under my backside, and now I had something to prove to her if I wanted to maintain our friendship. What I meant was, you don't have to remain mortal.
How could that be?
I'll explain later. For now, I'd like to talk to Liatra about enlisting her service.
As I recall, she pledged it.
True, but I wouldn't want someone to get caught up in the moment and pledge based on emotions. Yakol turned his eyes to the sky, made a few gestures with his hand to his forehead, nose, and chin, then drew a sideways U on his chest.
That the goddess blesses us with such a wise deliverer of the light.
I feel equally as blessed to have met the Templars. I set a hand to my chest, as I'd seen them do in times of gratitude, and gave the same kind of half bow. Tell me, are you bound to the great hall you mentioned? He nodded.
Always. If the hall were to come under attack from the Northmen, or the minions of the Underlord, the Templars would announce it in the clan chat, and we would return to defend our stronghold.
Great. I need to have a couple conversations. Now, if you'll pardon me, I have a white mage to speak with. Then, my new friend Machini. After that, I'll return to you, if you'll be around.
Where would I go?
He clicked his tongue and 4 wolves padded up to his side. The 5th remained steadfast before the boys I'd punched out. I sent Giles a private message over the clan chat and told him it might serve to send an envoy to the front lines of the governor's regiment and let them know the Underlord's Terran minion had fallen. I didn't know if it would sway them from their mission, but it couldn't hurt. Probably. I dropped in on Timpy to finish our unsettled business. I was still amazed he had been able to hear that my quiver was empty and grateful he'd sent the arrows with Machini. Then I searched for Liatra, who by luck I found with Machini in the apothecary's shop at the opposite end of the road. My adrenaline surged at the sight of numerous vials of potions lining the shelves.
Ah, Gemini.
Liatra greeted with enthusiasm. She sped over and gripped my shoulder.
I was just telling Machini how I've pledged my service to you. I'm so excited to see what the goddess has in mind for us.
She dipped her head.
If you'll have me, I mean.
So much for worrying her emotions might have swayed her. Of course they did. But she was still on board. I'm in search of allies just like you, Liatra. People who serve the light and want to grow in levels by combating evil in the goddess's name. Liatra curtsied.
Thank you, Shenhua. I will try not to disappoint you.
Great. I was hoping to ask you for a favor then.
Command me, Gemini.
I've been told that certain mages can open portals to someone's bind point, then travel with them. Do you have that ability?
It is one of my newest spells. It's mana-intensive, but I love finding an excuse to use it. I hope to travel to new places someday I might not otherwise see. Then I realized you have to find people bound to those places, and that they have to have spirit pools. Disappointing. Spirit pools? To teleport?
Machini asked. Liatra nodded.
I have to connect with their spirit pools to create the ethereal energy needed for such a powerful spell. It doesn't empty their spirit, but it powers the cast nonetheless. Maybe it enhances my mana. I've never had anyone to ask.
Enora is full of such mysteries, I said. Machini, do you meditate? Do you have the spirit pool? Machini nodded.
My mother instilled meditation in us when we were teens. It quieted our minds.
Liatra, can you teleport to your own bind point? She nodded.
Of course. I use my own spirit pool. That's how white mages earn the portal spell, by discovering their spirit pools. Luckily, it isn't our spirit ability, or we'd only be able to do it once per day.
She feigned wiping sweat from her brow. Well, what if I could show you no less than 3 new places, starting first thing in the morning? She pushed out her bottom lip, then the smooth ivory flesh of her forehead crinkled.
Can you?
If you can cast the portals, I can.
Then I would ask you to show me the way, my mythic.
Are you bound to Briarton? Liatra shook her head.
I am unbound, Gemini. I come from just 20 miles northeast of here, in the snow caps. Would you ask me to be? Bound here, I mean?
I nodded. Yes, that would suit my plans. She curtsied.
I will see to it immediately.
She turned toward the door.
Do you know how I would go about such a thing?
I pointed at the young shopkeeper behind the counter. The woman smiled to return my gaze, but she seemed simultaneously horrified. Or maybe in awe. It could be awe. Yeah, definitely awe. It's good to be the Shenhua. Ask that woman if you may bind at this shop.
Yes, Gemini.
She strolled down the aisle. Machini? The Michon smiled.
Yes.
Is it too much to hope you are bound to the camp where your people stay?
Oh, I'm afraid it is, Gemini.
Damn. I snapped my fingers in disappointment.
I am bound to a decrepit temple at least 2 miles north of there.
Sweet! The Michon's shoulders jerked up. Sorry, sometimes I get excitable.
Okay.
Then she muttered.
I suppose.
She perked up again.
Why do you ask?
Because I want to meet with your people and ask them to join us myself, if that's okay with you. She tapped her chin, then her eyes rolled to the ceiling. One squinted.
Most would fall to one knee to be visited by the returned, but others are not so pious. They believe Solara abandoned them. You might find my camp less than a beacon of her grace.
It's understandable. They were lumped in with humanity's enemies during the Beast Uprising and driven from their farms. Then they had to brave the Plague Barons only to be expelled from their new home in the hinterlands of Seran by the Suisa. But hopefully I will serve as proof a new day has dawned that will change the outcomes for the Michon forever.
Such honor you bestowed just by knowing our history, Master.
Master? Kach. Destiny has regaled me with the details. She honors your family. So, if Liatra can take us to your people tomorrow morning?
I can,
Liatra sang in a long, enthusiastic note from the other end of the aisle as she twisted around and skipped back toward us. Then we'll set out tomorrow. I returned to Yakol, then walked a few doors down to an inn he pointed out. After the witch carnage, he said we should enjoy a peaceful night's sleep. Never had such blows been landed against the darkness of the Arum forest. All would need to recuperate, but he would have his wolves patrol the perimeter, just in case. At some point, when I wasn't sleeping on my feet, I'd have to fill him in. 30. Giles. Pronto returned to the shop with Brug in tow. Amelia's head rose from her study of a glowing yellow crystal in the corner when the door's hinges squealed. Giles shoved a polishing cloth in his pocket and slipped a dagger back into its sheath. Pronto raised 2 fingers.
You might want to put that down, young miss. Why?
She shifted her gaze between the caster and his gem.
Because you might want to have children someday.
The gem clattered to the wooden top of the display bar and rattled to a halt. Amelia clapped her hands as if to remove dust. Her head swiveled around like she was trying to find something.
There's a purple crystal on the basin just there, in the corner, if you want to clean your hands.
Giles pressed a finger and thumb to his temples. Mulk's niece?
All fixed up. I'm sure her father will be at temple tonight.
Giles smirked. Because of the miracle? Pronto nodded.
Yes, the mother actually let us inside. Seems she isn't so ridiculously pious as to refuse her daughter treatment. Her plan is to tell him the pox just went away.
Can she trust the child to be silent?
She slept the whole time. Doesn't even know I was there.
Giles's gaze shifted to the giant standing behind the mage. I suppose you waited outside?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Now that we've accomplished that little task, we need to open a portal and return to the Queen's Forest. Pronto scratched one side of his face with a hooked finger.
And you're certain a creature of shadow such as myself would be welcomed?
I like to think of my people as the more evolved kind, Pronto.
Well, Jara's one of your kind, and she has interesting thoughts about shadowcasters.
Jara also lives in Solara's kingdom. It makes sense she'd have her dispositions about the other affinity. Now, shall we go? Pronto nodded.
I just need to gather my things.
He peered around the dim interior of the shop.
I've been here so many years, I might miss the old place.
He paused for a few heartbeats.
Nope, I don't think I will. Enough life wasted.
The caster scurried into the back. In one corner, a purple glow rose against the wall as Amelia's shoulders bounced with effort. You don't have to scrub your hands, Giles said. It's a cleansing crystal. Just pass it over your flesh once or twice and you'll be fine. Besides, he lowered his voice, I think he was having one over on you. Amelia twisted. Her jaw unhinged.
He wasn't.
Giles nodded. Probably. The crystal's glow receded. But still, better safe than sorry.
Think the Queen will welcome me?
Brug asked. Giles's forehead wrinkled as he inspected his friend. Why wouldn't she? One huge shoulder rose and fell.
Because I stole her son away to a town in the south for half a century?
Giles laughed. If you'd stolen me, the elves would have come, taken me back, and torn you to pieces despite their respect for life. We're not a bunch of...
Bunch of what?
Amelia asked. Giles waved a hand. It's an expression Gemini uses. Hippies. Never mind. Pronto returned with a sack over one shoulder, a knotted staff in one hand, a wand in the other, and a pack tied to his waist.
Are we ready?
Packing light, I see,
Brug said. Pronto ignored him.
Follow me to the back. The portal will cast a glow. I don't want people on the street to notice.
As they followed, Brug set a gentle hand on the elf's shoulder.
How are you feeling about going home?
Giles's heart skipped a beat. Just like old times, his friend could read his expression when no one else could. There are no words. 31. Gemini. We gathered just before dawn on the side road at the eastern edge of town. I'd spent so much time on the main thoroughfare fighting witches that I'd forgotten the side strip was there. I hadn't seen it since the morning I arrived, and that had been before sunrise. Liatra explained that opening a portal to someone's bind point required a spirit connection. Luckily, Machini meditated frequently and had discovered her spirit talent at level 24, so the white mage was able to tap into the slinger's spirit pool, create a kind of energy binding between them, then cast the spell. The portal would remain open for 10 minutes, or until the caster stepped through. Since I was dragging the Templars with me for this little excursion, the responsibility for their safety fell to me. Not that they needed my protection, but I needed both to remain healthy if I was going to meet the objectives I'd planned to satisfy by sundown. I had a long day ahead. Machini explained that the Pride leader had a history with her sister, my beloved Tank. That shared past was part of the reason Machini spent as much time away from the camps as she could. The Pride leader was always making snide comments, putting her down. Trying to recruit her people would fall to me, but the Pride leader also disliked and mistrusted outsiders. As we stared at the portal, she wound up her explanation of what I was walking into.
Ever since the Swicer drove us from the valley, he has taken up hunting beasts to gain experience in the north. His power has gone to his head, so you must tread carefully.
I'm sure I can handle it. I'm not going to take anyone who doesn't want to come with us, just offer the option. Machini would step through first. I'd follow. We'd wave the Templars through and we'd check the area for potential threats. Then Liatra would bring up the tail so the portal would close behind her. Color me surprised when I peered through the massive tear in Enora's space and spied snow covering the ground as far as my eyes could see. None of us were exactly geared for cold weather, but Machini assured me it was only a couple miles to her camp, and the Michonne accommodations would sustain us. My feet crunched snow when I stepped through, and a frigid breeze caused a shiver to cast ripples through my body. Machini and I scanned the surrounding area, then waved the others on. The wolves hesitated, but when Yakel put his boot lightly in the black giant's backside, it hopped through. Then the others followed. When Liatra stepped through, the portal closed. Then Machini pointed toward a hill to the southwest.
That way. You have discovered the frozen steppes. 2,150 XP.
Meslar Tomp took the lead. Whether out of a habit formed from being a tank or impatience, I wasn't sure. Although he'd been a gruff one when we first met, as he suspected me guilty of rape, we'd fought well together, and once he settled from the initial shock about my ties to his goddess, he smiled more. Dissini stood to learn a lot from this guy, if events went according to plan. The hardened leather chest piece I'd won for participating in my first town raid was finished in a coat of lacquer and performed reasonably well in the cold. The new pants and boots were no slouches either. Yakel showed no signs that he was any more uncomfortable in the frigid breeze than he had been in the warmer climate of Briarton. Liatra actually wore a perpetual smile as I paced next to her. You said you're from the north, right? She nodded.
The northeast, close to Seran's heart.
I guess it's cold there. You seem comfortable.
It's frigid. Why do you think I wanted to leave?
She peered at the sky and raised her hands, bent at the elbows.
This is like spring.
I pinched the sleeve of her robe and rubbed my fingers together. Right. Pretty thick. Did you make it?
No. I'm not much of a seamstress. My mother sewed the underclothing and our town priest inlaid the gold trimmings and finery over top. Then he blessed it, and Solara finished it off with a nice enchantment. It boosts my intelligence by 30, you know.
She beamed with pride, accentuating the color in her cheeks painted by the cold air. It's a lovely piece. I took a screenshot. It might be difficult to recreate.
My mother is a rank 90 seamstress, but it's only a level 25 garment. Hard to say. Do you have someone you'd like to make one for?
I do. The priestess of my hamlet.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I'll happily share the design with her, and if there's someone in your hamlet who can stitch one together, all the better.
Yakel grabbed the smallest of the wolves, the one with the silver hair and the long body, and swept it into his thick arms. He patted her belly.
We have a tailor at the Grand Hall who is capped. He can help you, Gemini.
Awesome. What's the cap, anyway?
100.
He flashed me a querulous gaze that sent wrinkles across his forehead.
How is it you don't know that?
I shrugged. I just woke up in the dark wood a few weeks ago. Why would I know it? You think Solara tells me everything? He pushed out his bottom lip and twisted his mouth to one side.
No.
He patted the wolf's belly furiously and set her down again.
I don't know what I thought. I guess I made a bad assumption.
My destiny has been unwound for me as I've come into my own, just like everyone else. I've just had less time to acclimate and learn. I rely on my companions to answer questions and inform me. I guess Solara wants her chosen to work for knowledge. The warrior a few paces ahead nodded, and his long stringy locks brushed the back of his white plate.
That adds up. The goddess aids those who put their backs and brains into it.
You have a way with words, Tank.
It is Templar tradition I respond to your compliment in kind. You swing that sword of yours with a thirst for demon blood like I've never seen. If you've only been around for a few weeks, I wonder whether the goddess blessed you with an innate skill.
I have a mentor. All heads swiveled. Machini perked up.
A mentor? The Shenhua has a mentor?
I reinforced my nod with enthusiasm. An elven rogue who would shred us all and yawn when he finished.
How did you come across him?
I needed weapons training. I guess that answer expounds on Meslar's wonderment.
Asked and answered. Thanks for sharing.
Happy to, I said. The dispositions of these people brought an airiness to my chest despite the cold air filtering into it with each breath. It wasn't an ego thing centered on my storyline as much as their easy way. They seemed so relaxed, and it occurred they might be so because they faced evil minions with regularity. A little snow amounted to nothing in comparison. We walked in companionable silence for a while, so I ran through my inventory to reacquaint myself with the potions I'd purchased from the apothecary in Briarton. I'd refilled my health potion supply at a cost of 10 gold. I bought double the mana potion since Liatra and Machini both powered their abilities using that pool. They were triple the cost, and I bought 10. And I'd stumbled upon one I hadn't seen before and was so excited, I bought out the stock of 20.
Enhanced speed elixir. Type, potion. This potion gives increases to attack and movement speed for 1 hour. The effect ends with death. Plus 35 attack speed. Plus 10% movement speed.
The 20 speed potions cost me 100 gold, so I'd spent 150 and was left with 1,558 gold and change. Part of me wondered if ending the raids on Briarton, assuming that was even possible, would destroy a major source of income. But that was gamer thinking, and this was life. The Templars and the White Mage seemed fond of the idea of ending the raids, but that might have been because it was a Shenhua's idea. All the dead bodies I'd seen in the past 2 days had me thinking about the families of the adventurers. Rashan had really poked holes in my disposition. Meslar stopped and held up a hand.
Weapons.
The Beastmaster drew his axe. Liatra raised her staff from somewhere inside the intricate folds of her robe, and Machini's sling appeared in a heartbeat. What is it? I'd remained a hunter so Click could hang out with us, but I hadn't summoned her yet. I shrugged off my bow. Meslar pointed, but in slow motion. I squinted and scanned the snowy landscape, but only spied the snow-piled branches of low shrubberies and thick stones. Then there was a movement. I blinked my eyes in succession.
Snow Alpha Lioness. Rare. Level 24. Snow lions are rare animals found only in the northeast of Rubal and on a continent you have not yet discovered. This beast boasts 9-inch claws. Strength, 48. Dexterity, 40. Intelligence, 14. Wisdom, 19. Constitution, 34. Charisma, 1.
The massive lion stood with its back to us, facing the opposite direction from atop a rock otherwise covered in snow. Meslar cleared his throat softly.
Send the wolves, or ranged attack. Never fought one,
Yakol replied.
Don't know what to do to mine. Machini? Gemini? Can you get it started?
Machini pinched her chin.
I could hit it from here. I'd lose damage at this range.
She turned her gaze on me. I have other ideas. I scanned the lion's attributes again, paying particular attention to its level. I withdrew a mana potion and pressed it into the White Mage's hands. Liatra, I want to approach it. If it attacks, would you mind keeping me healed?
I'd happily heal you, Gemini. Of course. What's your plan?
All eyes turned on me. If it gets the upper hand, Meslar can jump in, and Machini can move into range to do damage. But don't do it unless my health gets below, say, 30%. Yakol shook his head.
I won't ask,
I replied in a chipper tone. Good. Stepping to the front of our line, I raised a hand and tried to cast.
Out of range.
My heart thumped against my ribs like a little rat trying to escape a bone cage. My feet emulated the warrior's hand motion as I moved with excruciatingly slow steps. The sound of my boots crunching snow was like a cannon going off to my ear. The great lion's head turned. It pivoted on the stone slowly so as not to lose its footing. Then its head lowered. A low growl came on the breeze. Oh, this thing is so beast. I started to raise my hand, but then I remembered Click. When I'd met the porky punk, she'd greeted me with a spine attack in my arm. That had sucked. Then after I'd killed her and a new version spawned, she'd chased me down the trail before I finally tamed her. The image crossing my mind was of her cute little nose sniffing the air. A smile stretched my features as I opened my inventory. Praying to Solara I had time before the animal decided to check us out up close. Now you're praying to her? Idiot. The great advantage to a magic bag was nothing inside spoiled. My third night in Enora, I'd hunted some pheasant with Click, and Priya had cooked it up for us. Although I also had deer meat and some magic buffing foods, I thought the thick pheasant leftovers would hold the most appeal to such a grand beast as this. When I whirled my arm, it jumped off the rock, but it wasn't advancing. Even from here I could see its eyes darting between the members of my party. The pheasant flew through the air and thumped in the snow about 20 feet to the lion's left. It didn't move. Come on, Simba. Go for the meat. An eternity passed. Then the lion sniffed the air. It bounded to the pheasant in a single leap. Gods, it's amazing, I whispered. Gotta have me one of these. The lion wolfed the pheasant. I raised my hand and an azure glow surrounded my fingers, then crept to my wrist. Hello, baby. Want to be my friend? The lion's head jerked up and it sauntered forward, reminding me of videos of the beasts in the African lowlands, creeping up on a pack of gazelles, trying to spy the slow one it would shred. Charm beast, 13%. Pushing the thought from my mind, I focused entirely on the eyes on the lion. My fingers hummed with energy, boosting my confidence. But another low grumble came on the air, and I had to close my eyes for a moment to push off the shivers of fear accentuating the ones from the cold breeze. Charm beast, 23%. Sure, I had a healer behind me. Yes, the Beastmaster, tank, and way underpowered slinger, despite unspent attributes, would shred the animal if it got the upper hand. But the idea of its long claws shredding me with no pain mitigation was the lone requirement for my mind to try to distract me so I'd fail quickly, then run away in a moment of sanity. Survival instincts sucked. So I forced the thoughts down, blanking my mind, focusing only on the task at hand. Charm beast, 35%. Machini whispered. Shenhua, my sister would be displeased if I let that thing pounce on you and did nothing. These monsters are very dangerous, and it might kill you more quickly than even our esteemed mage can heal. Charm beast, 47%. My eyes flickered open, and I almost jerked when I spied the white of the lion's eyes as it paced toward me. The low growl grew louder. Then its jaws parted to show me a mouthful of long fangs with two that only belonged in renderings of ancient saber-toothed tigers. Charm beast, 59%.
Shenhua!
The Beastmaster carried the last syllable in a long, upward intonation. I whispered harshly while maintaining my discipline. Don't anyone move. Don't so much as twitch. The energy tickled my hand for a moment as it dissipated, then surged. Charm beast, 81%. The lion growled and pushed its lips together. Its eyes flashed. Snow Lion Alpha readies pounce. Charm beast, 91%. If the beast pounced and broke my cast, there was no way I'd get him. Sweat dripped from my forehead despite the biting breeze. Curses filled my mind. The nodes on my jaw jumped as I ground my teeth and strained to push mana into the cast. I whispered, Steady, kitty. Go easy. The beast's rear legs crouched, its lips peeled back in a snarl. Its thick front paws raised off the ground, then they dropped again. The massive head lifted and tilted to one side, then a golden light surrounded it and funneled into the sky. Congratulations, you have tamed a rare beast. Plus 6,750 XP. Your tame skill has risen to rank 4. Snow Lion Alpha, rare. Level 24. Snow lions are rare animals found only in the northeast of Rubal and on a continent you have not yet discovered. Strength, 48. Dexterity, 40. Intelligence, 14. Wisdom, 19. Constitution, 34. Charisma, 1. The lion patted prints in the snow and stopped inches from my face. Then it plopped its hindquarters down. The urge to pump a victorious fist in the air was tempting, but instead, my hand disappeared into the thick mane surrounding my new companion's neck. I scratched. That's a good one. Mesler spoke with the reverence of an altar boy peering at a crucifix in a cathedral.
Ever seen the likes of that? That how you do it, Yakhol?
The Beastmaster matched his volume.
Nah, wolves don't climb trees. So I stocked up in Briarton, clambered up a trunk in the Arum forest, then fed Shoji over a period of 2 days. She led the rest of her pack to me. Once she showed the proper disposition, I bound her. Shumi, Aaron, and Luna followed her lead. Misty was injured by a witch. We found her and the pack adopted her a few weeks later. What the Mythic just did with that furry girl? That's Solaris magic.
Although I thought it might gain some respect from Yakhol if I learned the names of his wolves, I didn't want to turn my eyes from the lion yet. Somehow her gaze told me she was searching me out, bonding. Inspection of the animals would serve the purpose later. The white mage continued in the same somber tone.
I will serve this man forever.
Machini purred. I pulled a piece of deer jerky from my bag, but the lion sniffed it and looked down. I was out of pheasant, and the magic-boosting fruits weren't likely to help. Without turning, I engaged Yakhol. Do you have any of that meat I saw you feeding your wolves?
Aye, but they might take exception to my sharing with strangers. They're already eyeing her like she's their next meal.
No offense, Beastmaster, but I think this one might give them a run for their money.
If you mean to say she'd give as well as they take, I'd venture to agree. That one is a beautiful creature of violence.
I chuckled. The lion sniffed me. The Beastmaster slowly approached. The lion stepped back, but set her butt down again in the snow. It licked its nose and watched us.
Blast it.
He stuck out a piece of the meat and I took it. One of the wolves whimpered. The lion's head rose. Thanks. This time I stood tall when I fed the animal. You're mine now, sweetness. The lion gently snatched the food. This time she chewed it carefully.
Guess she likes beef,
Yakhol muttered. I put a halt to the whispering trend. Yup. Yakhol jumped, but the lion remained still. When it finished, Machini stepped forward.
May I pet it?
You can try.
You don't instill confidence, Master.
Isn't it a little too soon to be calling me that?
You just tamed an alpha lioness.
Ah, okay. I grabbed the animal's mane and turned. Go ahead, give it a whirl. Machini gave a grand smile. The resemblance to her sister was obvious. Claws popped out of her hands as she reached into the mane and scratched. The lion leaned into the affection. Machini's tail rose high.
She's so beautiful, Master.
That she is. Hopefully her disposition will surpass friendly soon. Then we can give her a name.
Ah, that would be fine indeed,
Yakhol agreed. Come on, lioness. Time to go meet other cats.
What's a cat?
Machini asked, reminding me even more of her sister. I pointed at the lion. That's a cat.
Are you calling my people cats? Do we prowl like beasts? Is it because we have tails?
Has anyone ever told you that you're just like your sister? Her cheeks flushed.
I will take that as a compliment and set aside your earlier attempt at humor. Come, my people aren't far.
Nor were they friendly.